Hello, podcast world. Welcome to Balance Life Mastery, the show where we talk about all things high performance and life balance without the burnout. Stories, insights, and actionable tips on creating the life you deserve, giving you and your teams the unfair competitive advantage in work and personal life. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 13. Today, we're going to talk about a hot topic, but also quite a controversial one, and one that actually isn't very clear to a lot of people, yet they talk about it quite a lot. And that is Stoicism versus resilience. And I want to start off by sharing two quotes that really kind of lead or guide my life, I guess. And one of them is, it's not events that upset us, but rather our opinions about them. And that is by philosopher Epictetus. And the next one is by Marcus Aurelius. And he said, "You have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." And that is so true in its sense. However, as I started to read more and more about Stoicism and the philosophies and the virtues behind them, which we'll get into in a second, there are four big ones, I realized that it's very much about enduring hardship and pain and not letting it affect you. But adding to that, resilience is knowing how to bounce back from it. So, and that was a very big realization for me, because when we talk about resilience in the workplace or whatever else, and this is a very soft topic for me because I had zero resilience. I would get very offended. I'd take things personally and all of these wonderful things. But yeah, there is a big difference. Did you know that?
Me?
Yeah.
No, not really. It's a really weird one, because you kind of, there's a lot of these buzzwordy terms, and like resilience kind of feels to me like it's something that's like resilient to water damage or something. Basically just means it can withstand being battered. Right. And that's not, like you said, it's that bounce back ability that's the more important bit than actually the sustaining it in the first place, because that kind of makes it sound incredibly rigid, without any flexibility, and that's not the point about it. I find this a fascinating topic because I found Stoicism through reading the Daily Stoic. So that's a book recommendation I would say to everyone. It's a fantastic access into understanding about Stoicism, and it's not like a really overwhelming thing. It's literally read one page a day, and it has the day of the it's like 365 or things to sort of read through the year, so it's like really broken down, and it is such a powerful topic, but it does have so many like back and forwards and misconceptions and stuff, which we'll go through during this call, because I think it's important.
Yeah, definitely. And there are four and actually, I'm going to ask you to share a story on you being called a Stoic in a second, because once again, it's all about our perception of the world around us. And one of the key kind of fundamental principles around Stoicism is that people aren't disturbed by events, but rather by our judgments and our perception of events, like getting fired or let's use getting fired for a second. If someone gets fired, yes, it sounds bad. Some people may see it as the end of the world, but what about if you get a much better job out of it? Or what if there's been a car accident and the doctor says you might never regain feeling in your limbs? Like, I get how situations like these we cannot control, but in order to live with some sort of peace of mind, because at the end of the day, we are going to live until the day we die, we have to find a way of dealing with external circumstances and events and turning them into something that just gives us a little bit of peace. And once I started implementing these things in my life, oh my goodness, it's just so liberating. And you don't wake up in the morning worrying about everyone and everything and their mother. And it's just this, I don't know. So what is your story about being called a Stoic?
It was at the start of the pandemic. And yeah, we were trying to work out how we were going to get our IT team set up, how we were going to kind of support people and stuff. And everyone was like melting, like losing their minds, and like, oh, I've never had to do this before, and everything. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, we'll just get on with it. And I was kind of getting, called sort of cold, harsh, numb, and then someone sort of said, "Oh, that's a very stoic attitude," and I laughed and I said, "Well, thank you." And they didn't like that because they thought it was sort of a dig, and it was like, no, 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 I can't control any of this, right? We're going into lockdown. I can't choose whether my kids go to school or not, and I can't choose whether we're going to send people home from work, whether I'm allowed to leave the house or not, whether I'm allowed to do exercise. And the bit that's really funny is you then rattle people that go, "Oh, you're just a sheep. You're just following what the government says. Like, have an opinion, break the rules, do all this." Like all those protesters in London and stuff, and it was bonkers because it's like you're protesting against stuff like that. Do you know what? The whole world is doing it. You're complaining that like your government is doing what everyone else is doing, and do you know what? They're not going to listen because they're not going to turn around because someone puts a like grumpy tweet on like Twitter about it, or they march around London. I don't care how many people. Like this was beyond that, and it just used to drive me nuts. So why don't you care? Why don't you do something about it? You just like the sheep thing, and it's bonkers. And it was like, if I got caught up in that, my mind would be all over the place because all I'm doing is a negative spiral. Or, in other events, if you get caught up in such a positive spiral, you don't see any bad. You don't when you come crashing down, because everyone crashes down at some stage. Whether it's a football team that wins the league one year and they don't win it the next year, you have to be able to deal with that. So yeah,
exactly. And I think I think it was a very clear way of, when I read it, I was kind of like, I did kickboxing for about 13 years, so the analogy stuck with me. And Stoicism is about figuring out how to roll with the punches and still be the best that you can be and still do the right thing despite anything that's happening around us. And I guess that is exactly it. How do we stick to doing the right thing? And I think you touched on all of these movements that are happening. I kind of feel it's like, it is exactly like sheep. People jump to a movement and it's like, let's join the crowd and just make this noise. And then they become consumed by it. Whereas I get people are passionate about things. I totally get it. But is it actually helping them in life, or is it draining their energy? And and that's essentially it, I guess.
That's the thing. I'm getting called a sheep for doing as the government said. They're being a sheep because they are not the first person that decided that they're going to walk on a protest in London. It's like you're just following a movement that you've got caught up in the whirlwind, and you're following them. Like anyone can have an opinion. I don't care. I love it when I have a difference of opinion with people because it makes a far more interesting conversation. But don't accuse one person of being a sheep when you're following a movement as well. So it's that side. It's like you can pick whatever side you want, but I truly believe like the one that has a massive emotional high or emotional low is going to catch you out at some stage.
100%.
And like people are so frustrated about it and like fearful about it, and it's like it doesn't serve you. I think we talked on an earlier podcast about I think it was from the Daily Stoic that basically said your mind's your own, everything else is borrowed. So your body's kind of borrowed. Your body can break down, whether that's an accident, illness, things like that. And yes, I know your mind can as well, but you can control your thoughts and feelings. You can't control disease and whether you have a heart problem, like blood problem, like anything like that. And that's the important bit. I think that's the important bit about stoicism. It's whatever you do in life, and the more successful you are, the more you'll see this, people will love you or hate you. So there's always going to be people that will hate you because, like, we're talking about life balance. Someone will send me a message and say, or you'll never build a good company unless you're doing 20 hours a day. And that's their opinion. That's fine. Like, but they'll get real riled about it, and I'll be all right. And that's the difference. It's like going to bed at night, not blowing up.
Exactly that. It is everyone's interpretation. It's like there's this example that like we hear day in, day out of people's perception of rain, right? Some people in this world see rain as it is the gift from the heavens and all of that. And some people, because they've got a barbecue planned, and we hardly see the sunshine over here in the UK, and rain is like, why are you raining on my parade? And it's people's interpretation, but based on experiences, beliefs. I remember when I didn't live in the UK and I used to come to the UK, and I was living in the Gulf, so we did not see rain. That was just non-existent. And I'd come here in the summers, and rain to me, I'd literally walk out without an umbrella. I'm like, yes, it's raining. And everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? So yeah, again, interpretation of events. So the first thing kind of what we said was we blame events for our feelings, but it's not actually the events, it's our beliefs about the events that make us sad or happy or whatever else. And the second thing is it is super critical to know and recognize what we can control and what we can't control. And the only thing we can ever really, really control is our deliberate thinking and our behavior, because we can't control other people, we can't control nature, we can't control sometimes our own bodies, etc. And that is a big part of Stoicism in that sense. In terms of bounce back, what do you feel is the biggest, I don't know, go-to or tip when it comes to bouncing back from an event?
I think it's the sort of approach that nothing is ever 100% positive or 100% negative. And through my career, I was on quite a lot of M&A teams, so mergers and acquisitions, and thankfully, from a mindset perspective, I was always on the acquiring side. But the amount of times we would go into an organization and there was so much negativity towards us, to the extent of you felt like you had like murdered one of their family or done something, and it was that inability for people to see that there might be a positive to this. So that they would. One of the people even said, we were doing a meeting, and one of the people on the acquired side actually made a really good point. He goes, "Do you know what? If acquiring company doubled your salary at the next pay raise, you'd probably find a problem with it." And it was this thing, like everyone had decided, like, we're not a small edgy company anymore. Oh, they're going to take away this benefit we've had. We're going to take away that. And unless you see everything as an opportunity, like there is never 100% positive or negative. There's more opportunities when you get acquired by a bigger company. There's more protection. You might get better health insurance, like these types of bits. As we went into the pandemic, my message to my team was like, this is going to be really uncomfortable, but this is the opportunity to show that IT can be the enabler, can do the amazing things. My son learned to ride his bike during lockdown, like little things like that. And I truly think that's the way to be resilient, to look at what is the flip side. What can I learn from this? The whole thing about you don't fail, you either succeed or you learn, and take that. And I think that's the biggest thing for resilience.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I mean, lockdown, my son and I cooked every single day together. At the age of 13, he can now cook a full, I think we're going to need to get paid for this one, gusto meal. but yeah, essentially, I mean, it's mind-blowing. And I think, so one of the other things that stuck out for me from Marcus Aurelius was, he always says, begin each day by telling yourself, today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. And the whole point is to be prepared that we will get hit with crap left, right, and center. If I'm in a good mood and I meet someone at the gym who's in the crappiest mood, like, I don't need to let it affect me, right? That's down to them, and that's totally cool. And maybe I can help them one way or another. But and this is something huge. What we had in two of my companies, the companies I worked for, actually, we had two huge restructures. And with HR, we did these massive kind of discovery sessions about our personality types, not Myers-Briggs, but something along the lines of our acceptance of change and all of that. Yeah. And guess what? 90% of the team are very anti-change. And I'm like, how can you not see the excitement in change and being exposed to different things and new people and learning new things? And it's kind of like, it really does blow my mind, because I can't say I don't feel fear from change, but it gives me this excitement. And I think that's why I loved, for example, startups or any sort of restructures, because I was like, oh, what's around the corner? What's coming up next? And it's kind of like this game. And I think gamification is a big one. If you have that ability to gamify any concept in life, and I don't mean to offend anyone in terms of being simplistic, but it is just so much easier on your mind and your body and your soul to digest, I think.
My old boss, like previous boss, he used to call me an agitator for change. And it's because I thrive on parachute in ambiguity and make stuff happen, right? And that was I loved change, because change is opportunity, change is like disruption, and you can try new things, you can do new stuff, and it's that edge. But I think it's really interesting now that resilience is almost being trained out of people, because the whole point of resilience is it's doing uncomfortable things. And or the way to gain resilience is to do uncomfortable things and then recover, reflect. So it's the whole thing about your comfort zone. You don't grow in your you only grow when you're outside your comfort zone. And society now is participation medals, so everyone gets a participation medal, so you never feel like you lost a race because you still got a medal. And then there's so much support put around people, or so much avoidance. Like, I used to see managers that wouldn't give any work to their staff because they didn't want their staff to fail. And it's like, but they're not learning. They all just get used to, I don't know how to do this, I just do exactly what my boss says. There's no problem solving. There's like, and it doesn't sound like resilience, but actually it really is. It's getting told, oh, you didn't do that quite right, or it's standing up and like, how can you do a presentation and not get it wrong the first time? You can't really, right? But if you never get the opportunity to do it, you never build the resilience up to when someone heckles you from a crowd or something like that. I keep thinking I want to do stand-up comedy, just for the sheer enjoyment of someone heckling and seeing how you can kind of react to it. But yeah, it's almost being like, not coached out of people, but it's like people are getting protected so much they don't get the opportunity, and the people that will succeed will have that awkward conversation, will have that awkward moment.
Exactly. And it goes, I think what's happening, or what I see around, is this complete opposite side of the spectrum, where people go into denial and complete positivity land. And yes, it's great, and yes, the whole kind of point behind thinking positive and stuff is good, but it's kind of like a lot of people have shifted to let's forget that we will die one day, let's forget all of these things. And I think when we've thought about the worst, then we're prepared, right? But it's kind of like, how are we gonna continue to live life and go about it without letting us impact us, and not staying ignorant to the world around us? So a lot of people are like, I don't watch the news because it just makes me stressed. I'm like, great, but can that happen? Yeah, I don't watch the crap every day at 6 p.m. on the news, but I would want to know about the headlines every day, right? Yeah. So, and that's essentially it.
You're spot on, because I heard people that were sort of, they watch the news every day, and they say about how they're petrified, whether it was like COVID and now Ukraine and things like that. And it's like, none of them are nice topics, They're all pretty scary. But if you do spend your whole day worrying about something that you can't impact, it just gives you that negative headspace. You can't move on. You can't do anything about it. It doesn't serve you. And like you said, that positivity side doesn't work either, because if you decide that you're never going to die, nothing's going to impact you. Firstly, as people know, I have a security value. So firstly, yeah, they won't think about things like insurance or like going to the doctor, getting themselves checked out. But also, if you think you're going to live forever, you're never going to live a full day, because you need to have that sort of, this might not always be here. Like your kids, they're going to grow up, right? If you just la land it that your kids are never going to grow up, you won't really pay attention to them doing their first step, them doing like scoring a goal in a cup final, like all these things. If you live everything really happy, you don't get an emotional high. So yeah, it's about the balance, as always.
So lastly, and this is something I think that has been actually quite helpful, and we use it a lot in mindset work, and it's basically asking yourself, what would Batman do? So if you look up to Buddha, to Batman, to Superman, whoever it is that you look up to, it's kind of like, who is the person? Find that person who you kind of admire, their way of life, their words, and mirror the character. Like, that's essentially it. And I think that's a big factor where we learn behaviors from people that we admire and are role models. And I just think in terms of resilience, the biggest factor is question the status quo before putting yourself down, before try and find the good in, or the value in any situation.
Yep. Yeah. No knee jerk is you're spot on. I want to be Batman, just so you know.
Batman.
I think hopefully this has been really helpful. And like I said, the Daily Stoic's brilliant. There's a few other books. So the Daily Stoic is like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, like a load of there's probably like 5 or 6 probably that get quoted most regularly, but then they're all extracts from their books. So there's well worth, if you're interested, going and having a look. And yeah, there was a ton of content on YouTube as well. The funny thing about when I started reading the Daily Stoic is I got to one that was Marcus Aurelius, and I'm like, what? Because I thought Marcus Aurelius was a made-up character from Gladiator. Like the film Gladiator, they talk about Marcus Aurelius, right? And I just assumed it was all fictional. And I was like, dude's real. So, that is the level I operate at.
Oh my gosh. He's just Batman. He's another Batman. All right, guys. Well, resilience, think about it, try and apply it, build it. It's not about enduring pain and doing nothing about it and thinking that you're strong in life. No, learn to deal with adversity. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Send us an email, get in touch. We'd love to hear your story of adversity, of resilience, be it in the workplace, family, illness, whatever it may be. Share it with us, and we might actually start sharing a few stories. So until next time, take care.
See ya. Thank you very much for listening. If you like the episode, please subscribe, share it with a friend or a colleague, and leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you're using. We read them all, and it really helps us get the insights and the guidance on where to take the program forward. And also connect with us on social media. Share your journey with us with your high performing and balanced life. And lastly, remember to take the BalanceQ scorecard. The link will be in the show notes. And BalanceQ, or BQ, is your balance quotient. It's your ability to live this high performing and balanced life both in your personal and professional career. And when you take the scorecard, you get actionable insights, you get the steps that you can take to really take yourself on this journey. So with that, we thank you very much for listening and look forward to you listening on a future episode, and have an amazing day.